Abby. She won't come over. Hi, everybody. And bye, cat. Are you gonna come over? Nope. Okay, fine. She jumped off the desk. I just got done with lunch. Katso came over. She apparently did not want to sit down. We are just gonna be doing game design for the rest of today, and hopefully we're gonna come to some good conclusions as we do this. So let's edit the today command. Adam is going to work on game design for challenge mode today. Goal is to figure out how to enhance the fun of the game mode. Excuse me. Okay, so yeah, let's pick up where we left off. All right, so trade-offs. I had talked about some meta progression stuff. I wonder. I don't think meta progression is going to. I don't think this is going to make runs feel different. So purely from that perspective, I don't think we should prioritize this. Oh, nice, Matt. Hey. Unless it could always be added later. So let's say trade-offs did happen every once in a while. I think the question becomes, how do you react to trade-offs? This would have to be a way to react to trade-offs. I almost wonder if consumables just dropped from battles and you put them in a vault, would it make the game interesting? Yeah, I don't know. I think that's implying something you probably don't want to have be true. At least your family doesn't. Consumables just drop from battles and you put them in a vault. Would that make the game more interesting? I don't think this really matters to answer for right now. Items and a vault could be the interface for this, and that would be okay. But we don't even know whether consumables will help. Is there some other way then that you could do this? I'm trying to think, how do you react to any constraints in other games? I guess you do just make different choices. But I suppose there are, yeah, more of these sort of meta options for choosing, like re-rolling a perk. Pick a category of perks each time. Yeah, so what if we did just have re-rolling? What if we did just allow for re-rolling, banning, etc.? Okay, yeah, let's talk about some of the trade-offs then. Current hunch, maybe just some trade-offs and being able to re-roll perks is enough. I don't think they even all have to be trade-offs. But I still don't know how you're presented with them. What prompts them to be presented to the player? Yeah, we need to know more about trade-offs. So they could be run defining. Maybe you get something at the 5-minute mark that, I don't know, like doubles your income, but makes adventurers do half as much damage. That in itself may steer you toward cheapo items. Hmm. And yeah, they could be less impactful than that. Could be something like you won't get the next 2 customers to join your town, but you no, I guess I still need to think of like a trade-off is just 2 different things here. So what we could do is just come up with a bunch of positive things and a bunch of negative things and then just find ways to combine them. They're really just a positive and a negative thing. So we could come up with separate lists for these and then combine them however we want. Same day, new game design. That is right. Hey, Gansara. I am very torn on what to do for all of this stuff. And I don't think I've come to any real conclusions since this morning, although we didn't really spend the whole morning working on this. In fact, I got to write in the journal about what we did. Just going to run the script. Yeah. Okay, so merge PRs and then started doing game design to improve the fun of challenge mode. Hey, again, who cares? Now we have both had rice today. I just had my lunch. Yeah, what are the trade-offs? Like, what would be interesting? Because I don't want to just like hurt some aspect of your town. I want it to be somehow different. Sounds good. It was good. Oh, I had to add eggs to mine because I didn't make it to begin with. So I'm in farming mode right now. What if we were told like you cannot get the warehouse? I almost wonder what if it's a thing at the very beginning of the run. I don't think that'd be interesting though. I think you'd find some way to overcome it. I do think there need to be at certain points something that happens, and the first one should probably be at around 10 minutes or so. And I think we probably need more perks too. Man, just so torn. I don't have any fantastic ideas for this stuff. Maybe I need to write it down from that point of view of like what's stopping me from doing this stuff. 10 minutes in would be long enough for us to have gotten a few different kinds of perks anyway. So like maybe we build something, maybe we hire somebody. I didn't actually build anything. There we go. So 10 minutes rolls around and we say something like, all right, well, trade-off ideas are like high level. It could modify something you already have. Ember, thanks for the resub. How you doing? How's it going? Is there ever going to be speed up functionality where you hold the space button or something for skeletons to walk faster? I don't think so, no. There are perks that improve the walking speed of characters. And you will naturally level up adventurers to get them to the point where they go, well, they fight faster too. Because they're stronger. Maybe spell out certain build focuses with spelled out strengths and weaknesses. That will at least build a framework on how the matches can play out. Yeah, this is, I wrote up here somewhere the different approaches I could do would be like, what choices do we want you to make? Or which strategies do we want you to have? Or which systems would we want there to be in the game? And what you're suggesting is what if you came up with the strategies and then saw what they could do there? Could be something like workers move slower, or the farm produces crops more slowly. These essentially just undo perks. I'm not even sure that they're fun. Not sure this is fun. This all comes back to how do you react to these things? Which is what made me pursue consumables for a bit. Because you can choose when you want to use those. Also makes me think that trade-offs would have to be something that perks don't just negate. I guess there's another problem here, which is that we kind of need everything in the game for you to have a running town, like a working town. You can't really forego a building, or at least not like most of them. The farm or the pond is needed for sludge. The warehouse is needed in case you don't have shop storage. The enchanter helps shore up gaps. Have you considered relics and artifacts like Slay the Spire or Monster Train? Could be a fun reason to incentivize elites and add an interesting choice. I guess the difference between a relic and a perk in this game, or in Skele-game, I should say, is not much. Is athletics. Right. A relic in Slay the Spire was basically like a perk in Skele-game. And Skele-game doesn't have the concept of a card in Slay the Spire. Because the way you modify things in Slay the Spire was, yeah, relics, cards, and I guess some sort of inherent stats to you, like life and dexterity and strength. And then you could get potions. Relics will feel shoehorned. I mean, what is a relic though? That's what I'm trying to answer first. Like, in Slay the Spire, a relic is just a perk. So we already technically have relics in the game, I guess. We don't have like a card choice equivalent. I guess a card choice would be kind of similar to like a worker or maybe a building almost. Anyway, I think this might be part of the issue. If you do need everything, then, or if you do need every building, then we either need to allow for you to not have every building, or we need to push the decision making elsewhere. Gives you a perk from an elite only perk pool. Then getting one that works with your build could feel fun. I just like killing bosses. Yeah, I think killing bosses doesn't really seem to matter too much right now, and we probably need to make it matter more. Probably make killing bosses matter more. Maybe tough to balance for adventuring spec. I see it as you need everything at base level, but how much resources you commit toward each can be very different if done well. Yeah, but even that is kind of weird. Like the warehouse, there's only one perk for it, so you can't really commit to it right now. With the other 5, that's not true. The other 5 have more perks. But also, like, what you get out is very different. The enchanter probably ends up giving you a lot of items. And it lets you make some characters move faster if you need them to. And then the other 3, treasure room, farm, and pond, are all for power progression. And then the garbage slime is typically, I think, needed to give you more money. Like over the course of a run, it probably does pay for itself. So I think it's okay that you end up needing all the buildings. But I don't think I could say like, okay, let's just stop you from building the pond, for example, or let's stop you from building the warehouse. I think that would be something that specialization stops you from doing maybe, or makes it worse. And I think pushing the decision making elsewhere is fine. Yeah, I still think this is the biggest question. How do you react to things? Anything in Skele-game. There are just perks, choosing where to battle. That's it, actually, right? And choosing, setting up parties and where they battle. You can manually move stuff mostly as a means of prioritization, but your workers could do the same thing, since your workers could do the same thing. Your build focuses on getting few items with really high sell cost, then suddenly late game garbage slime is trash. But that's not even true, at least with how you typed it out. If you get a few items with a really high sell cost, that's actually like more reason to go for the garbage slime, because then they have longer to get hungrier. Like the garbage slime is always worth more than the item sales right now when they're at max hunger. And they can crit, so they can be worth like double or triple potentially. Maybe not triple, I think double at least though. Wouldn't selling in the shop always be better? No. No. The garbage slime has the hunger meter, and the more that's filled, the more they offer. So if I were to drag, this is worth 3 gold. If I drag it over here right now, it's also worth 3 gold. But if I speed this up, it's now going to be worth 4 and then eventually worth 5. And that's without even any sort of crit happening. So yeah, I guess it could probably get to triple the cost. But anyway, the opposite of what you said is true. If you got tons of small items, then the garbage slime will give you more for the first like 2 to 3 and then less for all other ones. So it would change what you do. If you got a bunch of items, you'd want to sell them in your shop then. Feel like it should be a perk then for the garbage slime to be that valuable. I mean, there are perks around this, but this is just like the base of how the garbage slime works. Then all the perks on top of this are like it can automatically seek food. It can give you critical eating, so better value for the items. It gets hungrier faster. Or this one's just automate adventurers going over to here. It'll probably also pull items from the warehouse eventually too. But again, even if we had that system, I think it's still like the only way you'd react to this is just by picking different perks. And maybe only having perk choices is okay if you can re-roll. That way you can at least steer toward a particular outcome. But then we need to make sure that there are enough like repellents toward your standard build. Yeah, I guess that's kind of it, right? Then we run into what is a build and how do we steer you one way or another. So like you're trying to go all in on treasure because it's worth more. I mean, that's another way we could do things. We could just say that certain things are even better than they would be. And you need to utilize some of these even better things. But that's kind of what perks were in the first place. That's kind of where I hit this brick wall. So I guess as an example here, like, what if we said something like treasure chests start with, I don't know, I don't even know. Provide even more loot. First of all, this is basically just a perk, which pretty much already exists. But second, it just makes you do more of what you were doing. Still think something's missing. I don't know what the something is. Something the fun of a lot of these roguelike games are just breaking the game. We don't really have that breaking the game concept yet. Then how you break it. Ideally, you've outsmarted the game. And to be able to get into a state where you're earning crazy amounts of money or killing incredibly difficult enemies. I don't know how much we've allowed for that to happen. How did Ember Knights work? There was some like perk system, and I've completely forgotten how this works. There were relics. Oh yeah, you chose like leveling up stats and stuff. What were the relics in this game? Yeah, these sorts of things. Okay. Yeah, so you would have a build you tried working toward. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Buy perks. All right, well, let's play the opposite of this. So suppose we did allow for this. Each building has another like 5 to 10 perks. And they let you get to crazy levels of brokenness. The farm lets you grow crops nearly instantly. So it's just a matter of how many potions you can funnel in. Yeah, that's where I could maybe see some of these trade-off perks being kind of interesting. But this is sort of like everything just becomes a stat and you're just improving or changing stats somehow. Sort of makes everything into a stat. E.g. crop growth, chance for a pumpkin. I don't know, cost to get a seed, etc. You just be tweaking these stats with all the perks. I think it's interesting. I think the farm and the pond are kind of redundant when it comes to this stuff. Almost to the point where it makes me wonder, should you just unlock them both at once? Like, is there a reason to even separate them? I guess they do slightly, they accomplish their goals in different ways. So yeah, I guess imagine some sort of like, I don't even know how this would work, but a fishing pond upgrade where it was like every single battle is filled to the brim with fish. So instead of fighting one bat in the forest, it's one bat and 8 fish. It wouldn't make sense because they don't even have water there. I guess they'd just be land fish. Okay, well the higher amounts of these things, I talked about it for the farm and I guess for the pond. But what about for the enchanter? Like, yeah, I guess what if there was a spell that just said like workers teleport to where they need to be? And the treasure room, I guess we could have some obvious things with that. Garbage slime, yeah, same thing. It could just be offering you like tons and tons of money. It's just feeding everything to the slime. And then the warehouse, I don't know what we do for the warehouse. Probably like items can stack more and more. Or as they're being stored there, they stack. Doesn't need to make sense. The flying fish thing doesn't need to make sense. Yeah, I agree with that. Then divides a focus on an AoE adventure. Items accrue value the longer they're stored in the warehouse. Yeah, I thought of something like that too. The items accrue more value. I think something like that could work, but I think the only warehouse perks that really make sense is like it's having items in it gives you some benefit. So now you just make sure that you're always stocking your warehouse. I'm not sure it's very interesting is all. But then again, there don't need to be any like crazy warehouse perks. They could be something else that we do. Could be like the warehouse build is the same as just having shops. And maybe the shops are like, oh, the longer an item's in a shop, or just the longer an item exists, the more value it's accruing. So even if it's moved to a shop, it's okay. But yeah, I don't think you get to the like crazy build thing. And I think the way we would get you there is through these broken perks. So garbage slime could get super hungry, allow for mega crits, eat every item from the warehouse at once, etc. Or like chance to not lose hunger actually would be pretty good. In fact, I should definitely add that. Pretty good. Let's go write that down somewhere. Garbage slime. Chance on eating to not be sated. Hunger remains the same. So garbage slime is that warehouse, farm, pond, enchanter, treasure room. Mostly would just give something around item stacking, duplicating, or increasing the value of items. Maybe two nearby items can combine to form the next item. So it's kind of like stacking. But positioning would matter. Would turn into a match 3 game inside Skele-game. The thing I was picturing here is just what if you had the full warehouse and whenever items are next to each other that are the same, like these two would combine into like a yellow potion or something. The rules don't have to make sense. But so, okay, cool. Those combine. So now imagine that they turn into a yellow potion and then you put the two yellow potions next to each other and they turn into a red potion. And then, you know, you put the two red potions next to each other and it turns into like the final form. Maybe this, the rare item, Ogre Blood. So like where you put items in the warehouse now might matter. Such that you're trying to like upgrade every item before you sell it. And that means that it may actually be better for you to just start putting items next to each other than it is for you to go fight in higher level locations. I don't think the game gives you tools to do that very well. So like if this were a match 3 game, you'd be able to swap things easily and like probably make your workers know about this so that they could do this correctly. Because just doing this the whole game probably would not be fun. But anyway, it's an idea of another way we could use the warehouse for this sort of thing. Farm would be the obvious stuff. Faster growth, better crops, cheaper crops, etc. Pretty much the obvious stuff, like more fish. Fish show up in random battles, etc. Actually, that's kind of interesting. Where is that? Do I have that written down over here? Fishing. Fish can show up in any battle, but when they do, they have double the life. There may only be a chance of this happening. Making a Candy Crush like minigame with your warehouse. I mean, it is kind of funny, right? Hey Tom, why not combine the items by shape and in a Tetris style, like an assembly line? Well, this is like a shoehorning of an idea into the game that does not. It's not really supposed to allow for this in the first place. So yeah, you could have like a crafting recipe, like put this in a T shape here, and it turns into something. But then the game would turn into like, okay, what are the recipes? What's going to give you the most value? Are you the one manually dragging these things around? It was just like a little random idea. I don't think it'd be good to surface it as its own mini game. Or if it is a mini game, it's some like incredibly simple mini game that you can play. Like this is the simplest possible mini game that we have. When you feed this thing, its green bar will lower and it'll offer you less money. So the mini game is basically like, am I willing to accept 12 gold or should I wait for this to go up? Now it's 13 gold. And like, which item do I feed it? So this is a really, really simple mini game that I think is like accessible for this style of game that we're in already. But yeah, anything to do with like placing things in a certain shape I think does not work. Now, it doesn't have to be a shape. We could just say like the having 4 of a particular item in the warehouse would upgrade it. That could be fine. I'm okay with that. If we do this, don't require the items to be nearby, since the game isn't really set up for a lot of like item movement within the warehouse. Workers don't know about it. They may interrupt what you're grabbing, etc. Only shop stands and only warehouse. Not having a warehouse with item stacking could hurt a lot of builds. Yeah, I want to reintroduce item stacking in some way. I have some ideas about that. Yeah, you'd be fighting your workers. Yep, exactly. Yeah. All right, enchanter. I guess we could add spells. We could make the existing spells go nuts. Like plus 500% customer speed. Maybe like plus 100% chance to buy an item. And we could like permanently apply spells. That's probably not a good idea. Yeah. Yeah, I think these are the ones we would do. And this is, I would say, also obvious stuff. Like more items, faster items. More power. Items affect everyone. Etc. In fact, that's something I never thought of. Huh. I don't know why that idea never struck me until just now. What we have in the game right now is that every treasure chest has some number of items in them. So like this one has a witch doctor item in it. And you know, we could have it drop like 3 different kinds of items. But there's no concept of an item that affects everybody. Maybe we should add those very rarely. Where I don't have this open. But I'll put that down in specific ideas. Treasure room. There could be items that drop maybe as a bonus that gives guild supplies to all of your adventurers. Or maybe it's a perk where each guild, kind of like just for all. Decreased duration if the spells are buffed to be nuts. Yeah. Could add spells, could make them go nuts. Even just longer durations may be interesting. If they can stack. Or make them stack. So yeah, the warehouse doesn't have anything super obvious, but we could come up with something. But yeah, I wonder if this is the direction we should go. But this is, I like this idea. What I don't like is that if we only did this idea, it would not make your runs that different from one another. I almost wonder if we should do something like at 5 or 10 minutes in, you get the ability to work toward one of these like super perks. But then I guess we're just saying you will get this thing this run. Yeah, we need the trade-off system. And I think the trade-offs could maybe interact with this stuff and then maybe make it interesting. So basically we allow for there to be more perks and we come up with the trade-offs that happen. So I still need to talk about trade-offs. I do like this idea. I really like the idea of breaking the game. Well, quote unquote, breaking the game through even more perks or just depth of perks. Garbage slime could just stop losing hunger at some point. Or always crit. Or vacuum up every item from the warehouse. Gain 2 to 3 opportunities to choose these crazy powerful perks. Yeah, that's actually another thing. These could be entirely separate choices. Maybe from the regular perks. Maybe you get a choice of garbage slime is 200% or like gets hungry 200% faster. Uh, farm never grows like carrots and what tomatoes. I don't even know what they are. Carrots and tomatoes anymore. Or like the farm always grows its its best vegetable or best crop. And what would the third one be? I don't know. Treasure chests. Whoops. Treasure chests always drop infernal loot in addition to whatever they normally have. It's actually pretty interesting. Yeah, okay. So then I still think trade-offs are what we need to talk about here. But I don't know if these super perks are the opposite of the trade-offs. Maybe they are. Definitely need to figure out trade-offs. But I don't know if these like super perks are the opposite or the reactive tool for the trade-offs. Or like everything should be unlocked in challenge mode and then you start doing these trade-off perks. When you say everything should be unlocked, do you mean like you get all buildings by default? Because I still think the building order is interesting. And maybe some of these perks might convince you not to get a building, especially if there are trade-offs. Like what if the warehouse said for every item in the warehouse you're losing money? I don't think that's fun. But imagine something like that where you're like, well, I just won't get the warehouse then. I'm not sure. But I think order can still be interesting. I kind of think about it in a game of StarCraft, like there are very few builds that don't get another base at some point. Like that they're all in one base builds that exist, but not very many of them. And typically your opponent knows how to counter them, and then you have no recourse. You can't like get back in the game. So it's generally like, what order will you do all of the sort of normal things? And that order itself might not be a lot of variety, but I think it can still be interesting. So I do think having the buildings be unlocked, I think is still interesting. Also, one of the other things we need to think about is this is all for V1 that we're talking about, but let's say, a year from now, we add in mining and I don't know, cooking or something like that, or crafting or just any number of systems. It's like, okay, well, now that could be an interesting change to challenge mode where we're like, how do we put mining in this? And you might not get it at first. And yeah, I don't know. We'd have to think about that. But yeah, trade-offs. So, I guess I started talking about this earlier. Where is it? I don't know where I wrote this. Oh yeah, modifying something you already have like this. I guess it is going to be modifying stuff you have, and I guess sometimes it will undo perks. We could just change the stats on some things. Garbage slime never offers more than 5G for an item. That could even be such that it's not so limiting. You can still get tons of items. Maybe even, yeah. Negative and positive. Kind of like the second approach more. Yeah. Yeah, I still need to think about like how we present this. Could be an event or could just be a straight up stat change of some kind. I wonder if just stat changes would be fine. It would also be nice because it'd probably be simpler to understand. Maybe unlocking buildings could be deterministic. I just don't think it'd be fun to be presented two options to build and you've already taken negatives for both. Well, we are kind of thinking ahead a bit and filling in some blanks that I'm not sure how they're going to pan out. So it could be that like the first trade-off choice is at 5 minutes in, and maybe it's like a minor trade-off. And then there's the second one at 15 minutes, and maybe that's a major trade-off. These may be at points in the run where you already have built everything such that it's not influencing you too much, or it doesn't feel like, oh, well, I just invested a ton in that. But I don't know. I don't know yet. So yeah, it's possible that this does bad things for the game, and then maybe we can correct the bad things. But right now, I think we're already in a state where we need something else. So, So how would I want to present these trade-offs? Like, what would trigger them? Could be time-based. It could be objective-based at 15%, 45%, and 85% of the objective. It's got to affect the run, though. Right? At some point, I feel like all the decisions should have been made, and now you just get to play out that strategy. So maybe we say, like, this, so it's plus 15, plus 20, and then plus 25. Yeah, like, that could potentially work. 5 minutes, 15 minutes, and 25 minutes. Also, these are practically equivalent for a lot of cases. Like if we say it's always going to happen at 5 minutes, there is some average amount of time it's going to take people to get to 15% of their objective, and it might be 5 minutes. So these might be practically identical. And at that point, we need to figure out like which one's healthier for the game then. All right, anyway, time-based, objective-based, or some other like game event-based. When you build your second building, hire your fifth adventurer. I don't know, beat a boss. What else could we even do here? Randomly. And based on perks somehow. Every fifth perk choice is a trade-off. No, I think it's fine, Xyletics. I don't think you're detracting from the stream at all. Also, I don't know. I have a bunch of thoughts going through my head, and I kind of have already. I think of this as brainstorming, and I think that the only thing that's important for brainstorming is ideas. And at some point, I need to bounce between the sort of creative brain of coming up with ideas and the editor brain of saying, like, here's why this would or wouldn't work. And it's sort of hard to do that. So if it sounds like this is not helpful, that's on me. I think it is helpful, even if the ideas are not something I end up taking necessarily, but it like gets me thinking, and I think that's important. Quest-based objective, which is just meh. That's game event based is what I was thinking. Yeah, beat a boss, complete a quest, etc. I kind of like this because then the more perks you get, the more trade-offs you might have to make. But I'm not sure how the trade-offs are going to work exactly. But like, it does sound interesting. It sounds interesting to me to do this based on the number of perks you've gotten. It means you could even delay picking perks till you have a bunch of buildings. That way you know which one to invest in. Like, it's just another choice you make. So, yeah, what might they look like? I guess they'd replace your typical choice of 3 here. So you'd see, there'd probably be some different UI for this, right? Maybe these have like a white background, and then the trade-off ones all have like a red background or something. Or, yeah, anyway, I don't know how we'd render that, but what would they even be? Because I think from right off the bat, it would have to be fun. Well, anyway, let's write this down. So either way, suppose we figured out how we'll trigger them. and we show you your first one. What is our goal as game designers with that first choice? Is like steer. I think it's to steer the run, not to dictate how it's all going to play out. Having a mechanic with a negative effect is often less fun if it's a surprise. I know, and I know you've been kind of steering toward that this whole time of like, what if you could tell that in 5 minutes or in whatever some amount of time, like this negative thing might happen. But I think if it's a choice you're making, then I think that is what all you need to be able to prepare for this. So imagine if instead of 3 positive effects like what we have here, like this is just straight upside, straight upside, straight upside. Maybe you can't benefit from that upside yet, but there's no way you can say any of these are negative. They're just all positives. So what if you had 3 trade-off options? And maybe we do dynamically combine these. I don't know. But yeah, something like plus 50% garbage, slime, hunger, minus 20% crop yield. Or yeah, the forest grants double the items. And yeah, it's again some negative. I don't know what the negative would even be. Like customers move slower. And some other thing. Treasure room gets plus 3 perks. And some negative that we have here. I don't know. The warehouse sometimes deletes items. So bad. Oh my god. I just think it'd be hilarious. You get like a whole bunch of items out of a battle and your workers try bringing them to here and then they try dropping it and just poof, it disappears. Anyway, you'd be picking is my point. So you'd know what the negative is and you'd have essentially like sort of 6 things to consider here. Are any of the positives worth it or are they worth it in the future? Are any of the negatives going to like super hurt your run or will they really hurt it in the future? So you could look at it from any of those angles of mitigating the weaknesses or increasing the upsides or I don't know, picking something that already synergizes with your build. Maybe there is no weakness here because you don't even have customers in your town anymore. Like just putting something in a shop makes it automatically sell after some amount of time. In fact, things like that are kind of interesting. We could go even crazier for this. Like items automatically sell themselves after 15 seconds of being in a shop. Customers cease existing. Yeah, like this is nuts, but it could also change the run so drastically that you're just like, oh wow, this gets me thinking very differently. Our items automatically sell. Yeah, something like this. I don't know. Just it illustrates the idea, I guess. If it's a choice and a metable form around them, kind of devalues the goal of keeping runs unique or different. But the choice could be randomized. We could have the trade-offs being something that are just randomly chosen. Positives and negatives could be randomly paired. Choices are always different. Also, a meta will form no matter what. The very like meaning of meta game means it's not that the game instilled these rules. It's that players know, oh, the probability this is higher, so I should probably choose this thing, or the strength of that is better, but my odds of getting it are so low that I shouldn't try to steer or build toward that. The metagame is guaranteed to exist for every game. It might not have settled, but like it's just basing some facts that you wouldn't necessarily know just by playing the game directly. You might only know it after a long enough time. The same thing would happen for events, by the way. If it was like, oh, hey, in 5 minutes from now, there's going to be a negative, and you know what the negative is, there'll still be a metagame around that. Just means that some negatives are going to be hard no. It doesn't necessarily mean that. Also, the other thing you got to consider is we might have metrics around this, and if we see like some negative option is never being picked, then we could change its stats to make it less negative. Like imagine if there was something just for laughs, minus 100% income. You can't win the game now if you don't have income. Just this makes no sense for it to pick. But if we look at the metrics and we're like, oh, no one's picking this one, then we just change it to minus 80% income or something. So you can always change the metagame too. But yeah, I wonder how interesting this is. And I wonder if it just showed up every 5 perks. If that would be kind of neat. It could be worth trying. I would need to think about these a little bit more because I think all of the positives that we do would probably already slot into a lot of perks that we have. Like this is just a perk. This would be on top of the existing perk, I guess. Also, we need icons for all of them. Kind of makes me wonder if there should be like 2 sets of levels for these things. That's probably a bad idea. Maybe they have a special icon that just combines. It's kind of an interesting idea too. How do we render these? Could just have a single spot that consolidates. We could just have a single like trade-off icon that shows what you chose at any time that has a dynamic way of forming the tooltip. Yeah, so I kind of like these ideas. I wonder if this should happen for battle perks. I think it'd be a little bit harder to do it for battle perks. I don't think we should. I think the town perks can just have battle stuff in them if we want. Yeah, okay. I think I like this. We could even parameterize the negatives so that on higher difficulties, the negatives are even bigger. Like we make all of this stuff always have just a number in it so that the numbers can always be changed. We could always make it so that the negative options have numbers that can be tweaked. So it's not something Boolean like customers can critically buy. Or I don't know, that's not even a negative. Customers, no, whatever. Anyway, I know what I mean by this. All right, again, though, let's say we had the system. Does it, like, without having to come up with a content, let's say this was your first choice. What would you pick? And you might be like, well, it's the first choice. And actually, the forest is still relevant. But granting double items is not something I can do anything about now. So this is a bad choice for now. Whereas maybe later in the game, getting double items when you also had, let's say, I don't know, quadruple forest item value or something, or potions sell for more. And you're like, oh, I get potions out of the forest. So then you look at this one and you're like, well, I have the garbage slime. I'm actually in garbage slime spec, so this is crazy for me. But man, less crop yield means my adventurers aren't going to level up as much. But maybe I could offset that by getting the fishing pond instead. And because I'm going to get more money, I will be able to fuel that. And I look at this one and I'm like, okay, I have the treasure room, but I've invested pretty heavily in the warehouse. Yeah, I think this leads to some interesting decisions. And I think it will change how you get perks afterward. Is it weird that you're spending money to get a trade-off perk? I guess as long as there's a positive, it should be okay. Interesting. Yeah, I like that idea. If it's a late game, I may not care too much about crop yield anymore. Yeah, yeah. And that's what I think is interesting about this, because that is always going to be an input into this, which is time, progress. Like, like this minus 80% income, this might actually be something you take if you're very close to the income threshold and you're trying to like maximize your score or something. I don't know, maybe there's an achievement you're trying to get. So I like that idea. I do want to think about this a tiny bit more, and I still need to come up with what are these things you're choosing between and how do they interact with perks? How do the positive slash negative options interact with perks? If you get plus 50% slime hunger, does it work with increased appetite? Crowd, they may not be here anymore. That was in the morning stream. Yeah, I don't see them in the viewer list. Hey, Oberon. Welcome back. What's up? We're working on some game design for challenge mode in Skele-game. And it's going pretty well, I think. It's kind of hard to say because I haven't implemented anything. So I've got some ideas for what could be fun. So my general, let's write this down. I still think we need something for you to react to. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think trade-offs are the way to go. And I think trade-offs should be randomly paired negative and positive effects that show up every so often. The every so often could just be some number of perk choices, which would mean you'd pick 10 trade-offs in a regular game right now. I should probably do another run, but I've got some screenshots of completed runs. Yeah, like I got 48 perks. So we just divide by 5. That means I would have gotten 9 trade-off perks, I guess. Which there's no reason it has to be divided by 5 because they divide by 10 and then I would have gotten 4 of them. Maybe 4 is reasonable. Maybe it is every 10 perks. I don't know. This one I got 53 perks. And that's all I have screenshots of, I guess. This one I got 48. This one I got 46. I don't know if I'd already looked at those. Anyway, it's hovering around 50. So yeah, probably make it like every 10 and aim for them getting 5 trade-offs. Something like that. Yeah. It could also just be on a schedule that the player doesn't necessarily, like they're not expected to know. Like it's after 5 perks and then after like 13 perks. So it's 5 and then 8 and then it's like plus 11 and then plus 13 or something. So you could know what these are, but they're going to feel like they're getting rarer to you even though it's the same every time. I don't know. Something along those lines. So how often you presented and what prompts them? We kind of answered. Do you even have to choose? We said yes. How do they interact with perks? So I haven't answered this stuff. I think we pretty much answered these though. So let's write this down. How do they interact with perks? So I think they should stack. Is there a problem with them stacking? I guess it changes the kinds of things we can do. It could just give you a level and a perk you don't have though. Yeah, I think the breakage thing is important too. I'm just thinking what kinds of things do we have here? All right, so I guess we do need to just come up with those. So what are the positives slash negatives that we can present as trade-off options? Positives, negatives. I mean, I guess any positive or negative could be turned into the other one by just changing a number from positive to negative. Like plus 10% income could be a positive, but obviously minus 10% income could be a negative. So maybe we should just list mods and have them potentially be randomized as positive or negative. Could even just come up with generic modifiers and have them either use positive or negative numbers. e.g. plus 10% income versus minus 10% income. Just need to make sure we don't pick the same category for a single trade-off, or else they'll cancel out. Yeah, so modifiers, I guess. Plus income. Well, not really income, I guess. It's got to be like plus X% sale price. But it's pretty much going to be all the stuff I already made perks for, is it not? Good thing I have a ton of money. Yeah, so pretty much all of these things. I mean, I guess let's write some of them down. More customers. Plus X% customer speed. That's sale price. Yep. Then we have worker speed, some item stacking stuff. Garbage slime. Crit chance value bonus. Garbage slime crit chance. Crit bonus value. Hunger. Clone one adventure. I don't think we have an easy way to implement that. That's the only problem. I think there are enough things in the game that assume that you have only one of each kind of adventure. But otherwise, yeah, that would be pretty interesting. Hey, Galaxy Inferno. I checked out your ML blog post that you made. I think it's interesting, and I was wondering. And again, it's just for my curiosity. I'm not trying to indicate anything here, but are there a lot of people participating? Like, are there people who are setting up their goals and their harness for their ML thing alongside you? I know you said you wanted to do it on your own anyway, and I think that's a good idea. But I think it's nice when people are participating. All right, so max fish plus X max fish plus X% fish extraction. Or like, it's really plus X% fish egg cost. Plus X% chance for glowy fish. Or plus X glowy fish value. X% chef slime crit chance. Crit bonus value. What else do we have? Crop variety. I guess some of these being like ultra perks would only, I guess they wouldn't all have numbers. I guess that would be the problem. Basically just showing that I can teach, so even if people just skim, they might consider buying ebooks or courses from me in the future. I see. Yeah. Yeah, plus I guess it's all essentially SEO. Like, you might target some topic that people search for, and then they just find out about you and they didn't know from the get-go. Some people are just lazy. 30,000 subscribers. Wow. Yeah. All stalls sell all types of items. Yeah, these are things, I guess these are like numeric modifiers. And then we would have some like non-numerical modifiers. Numerical. So this would be something like, what did I just come up with? Oh yeah, crops. I guess these we have to phrase as positive or negative. Well, maybe we don't have to. Yeah, no, we kind of have to. Crops are like seeds always grow into, or not that, sorry. You always get seeds for your most valuable crop. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, and I think we probably should have some of those. Why did I say the thing about numbers then? Just that they could be positive or negative? That's, I guess, not super important. Yeah, that's not super important. Okay, I like that. A bigger farm we can't really do. Crops grow faster. Plus X% crop growth rate. What is going on? And I guess like allow for harvesting even more. probably wouldn't feel very interesting to get that. Like you harvest all crops at once. That's how I share my progress. So people definitely like to watch and read. Wow, that's really good. Yeah. Yeah. Congrats. Amazing. Saying if you get all stalls selling any type, if you need to stack a certain item, 3x that number of items. Yeah. Yeah, I can write that down. All shops can sell any type of item. All right, so enchanter. I'm gonna kind of skip through this super fast. So plus X mana, regeneration. Let's see, more chance of casting double spells, or maybe like a chance of casting 3 spells. Plus X% chance to cast a 3rd spell at once. Spell potency plus X% spell potency. This can only work so much. And then all the treasure stuff, all the treasure room perks. Plus X keys, plus X time, plus X whatever, items, etc. All right, then we get to some other ones like plus X% loot from specific location, plus X% drop chance for category of loot. E.g. potions. Plus X% enemy health or power at specific location. Or maybe just overall. I like this idea a lot. And I like it more as I'm coming up with some of this stuff. I do think some of these probably can't be negatives because they're not interesting enough as negatives. So everything that has plus X could also have minus X. Yeah, that's exactly it. So this whole, any could just use positive or negative numbers here. Yeah, these could be positive or negative ones, but some of the negative ones are probably not very interesting as negatives. And I'm not certain about that. Yeah, what are the trade-offs? And then also, are all of the negative trade-offs interesting enough? If you only have like 4 choices during a game, and one of them is like minus X% chance of glowy fish, do you even care? Like, I think some of these probably should be a little bit zanier than we currently have, not just straight up stat boost. And maybe some of the positive ones could be straight up stat boost, but I wonder if we should do something more with this. Like every time you cast a spell, you have a chance to duplicate an item in your warehouse. Something like that. You duplicate X items in your warehouse. It's interesting. So there could be a build all about just like get a bunch of spells that you can cast. Or somehow lean into this perk. Then again, it makes me think, is anything that we come up with here that could be interesting, should it just be a regular perk? Like, why would this not just show up in regular runs? Anything that enhances or debuffs adventures, like additional power is not an option? It could be. It could be. We could do things like grant X battle perks randomly to your adventurers, already hired adventurers. Or could just unlock X skills on a particular adventurer. This may be less interesting because maybe some characters have better skills than others. Well, I guess that's just a balance problem. You could take any and reduce the impact to treat it like a perk just fine. Yeah, but should they be unique? Like, should it feel like I can only get this thing from here, and like something like this only shows up through the trade-offs, so it is pretty run defining. Should there be perks that are unique for the trade-offs? Should all perks just be unique for it? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how that should work. I also wonder if the whole point of this is that you've got to react and it's going to change your gameplay, then we definitely need to make sure that these are strong negatives, I guess. So as I mentioned, like max fish, you might not even care about the fishing pond, in which case you'll just take all the fish negative ones, right? Oh, minus just whatever. Just I don't even have any fish, so why do I care? I don't get any of these things now. And it might not feel like a negative. And we could base it on something you already have, but I don't want to punish the player by like, oh, you invested in this thing, now we're going to lessen it. So you should be able to build around that. Yeah, okay. I mean, we could prototype this with just like 5 or 10 options and see if they're doing the right thing for the game. If I'm presented 3 options and all 3 negatives are really strong, I'm not going to care about the positives and try to reduce the impact of me negatively. Yeah. Although even if the positive is small, I think you'll still consider it because 2 negatives might not really be impactful to your run. They might be impactful to a run, but not the one that you're on, at which point the positives become more important. Instead of lessening it later, maybe certain negatives are earlier in the game and players grow away from them. Yeah, that could happen too. And it could be that it's just such a negative that it defines that run. Like, oh man, the farm was nerfed into oblivion, so I just won't get the farm for this run. And I think that's okay, but I think the difficulty here is depending on how many of these you pick, like suppose you only get 4 trade-off options per run. So the first one you pick is like the farm does nothing. I don't know. It's the most impactful thing it could possibly be for the farm. It's like it would negate everything. But you pick this maybe like 5 minutes in and your farm is like terrible anyway, so you don't care. Well, now what about the second one you pick? It can't be like the pond does nothing. Like they can't all be so impactful. But yeah, maybe it's like, oh, you just like 3 customers just leave your town. Yeah, so now you have fewer customers, and it's like, well, I went all in on the garbage slime, so that's actually not that bad. Yeah, hey, Shuffleton. It's a very good thing you pick. You get a negative. I think you came in after I started talking about this, but yeah, the whole point of this is we're trying to come up with trade-offs. So every option is going to be like pick a positive and a negative from this list and present it to the player. So you might have gotten something like this as an example. So you get plus 50% garbage time hunger, like this is a perk, but you get minus 20% crops. That's a negative. Now you get this is a perk, but you get this is a negative. Now you get this is a perk, so on and so forth. So they don't choose, it's randomly given to them. No, they choose. They're just choosing between those 3 options. So right now, the only options that are in the game are all positives. So like you get this perk or you get this perk or you get this perk. They're all just straight up perks. But imagine if every like 10 of these options, you got a trade-off option. So there's this, which is both positive and negative, this, which is both positive and negative, and this, which is both positive and negative. And now you're like, okay, well, which one's the least negative? Which one's the most positive? And you end up picking this one. I don't know. I want to avoid them. They need micromanaging. They should impact the macro game overall. Yeah, the minus customers wasn't necessarily a micromanaging thing, if that's what you're getting at. But yeah, I don't want there to be something like every time you click a crop, there's a 20% chance it does nothing. Like this artificially increases clicks for really no other reason. Like it's literally just you sometimes have to click twice on something or 3 times. That I don't want to do. But having you like lose workers, for example, you might have gotten so many in that run already that you feel like, oh, this isn't really a negative anymore. Impacted a specific location and would rotate to different locations. Would that be micromanaging? I don't think it'd be fun, but I don't think it would exactly be micromanaging. I guess it depends on how quickly they're rotating. Like if it's once every 10 seconds, then it's just frustrating, I think, for everybody. But also, I think the problem is it's not really that fun. So I think just having it change once would probably be okay. The other thing is, how do we make sure these things are impactful even as positives? Are all of the options interesting enough? You only have 4 choices during a game. One of them is X%. Do you even care? Similarly, if we double the loot at the forest, is that something that ever impacts you later on? I think if these stack up enough, they could be. So yeah, we could say like double forest loot. This is interesting if you can sell tons of items, because now it's like you could have 6 battles going at the easiest location in the game. So combined with like garbage slime never offers less than 5G, could be nuts. But this is another thing that kind of highlights a problem here, I guess. This is like a 2-choice synergy that could probably define the game. I guess you still need the garbage slime perks for auto eating or garbage time. But that's about it. And I guess that sometimes happens that you get a couple of options that are just really, really strong. And it only took those couple of options to make it strong. It wasn't like it was a lot of other things. As an example here, imagine you have a cooldown of something like, I don't know, 1 second. You have an attack damage of 5 damage and a cooldown of 1 second. So you're doing 5 damage per second. Well, you lower your cooldown to 0.5 seconds. You've basically doubled your DPS. So now you're doing 10 DPS. But some games will present this to you as like option minus 0.1 seconds for your cooldown. So the very first time you use this, it's not actually increasing your DPS that much. But when you go from 0.2 to 0.1, you're doubling it. So sometimes these options can be very impactful. And that's kind of all it takes is for you to get that one option. You don't even really need anything else. Like your damage can still be 5, and you can do practically infinite if you got your cooldown to 0.001. It's like, well, I never needed to even modify my damage. I just needed to get cooldown a bunch of times. And I don't think that on its own is a problem, but I don't want this to be like try to pick up the 3 pieces of the like collect Exodia for this. And there are 10 different Exodias and they're all 3 perk choices. Make sure there's no Exodia option where you or no like easy Exodia options where perks A, B, and C are bonkers, but so are D, E, and F. And at any point, you're going to collect 1 to 2 of these sets. So you'd just be seeking out the third. Is that the Skele-seller logo? Yeah, it is. Yeah, parties are limited to fewer adventures. I have some of these things written down, I think. I have no adventurer limit, or maybe we raise it. I guess any of those we could also lower. Yeah, like plus X adventurers allowed in each party. Where do I get one? I think you just have to search Amazon for it. I don't have a specific link. So depending on what country you're in, you might need to, like if I search Amazon for Skele-seller hoodie, I see hopefully those are mine. Actually, I had a problem with someone stealing these when I was making Botland stuff. Is this mine? I don't even know how I'd be able to tell. Yeah, it probably is. Oh yeah, if you're in Washington, then you can just search, you can just take that link. There you go. Like I don't make these myself. I think it's all through Amazon merch. Oh, I see. Gotcha. I'll write that down. All right, welcome back, Neural Net. I think a lot of this is also going to work differently per player. My son and I have the demo and we start at the same time, and after 20 minutes, he's double my level. Yeah, it probably will. Although this is all for challenge mode specifically, which will, I guess, like further increase how many options you have. Like you start challenge mode first by picking a specialization. We have a lot of them right now, but we might trim this down. So you might pick, let's say, this one. So this starts with your warehouse and all shops at maximum capacity. So that alone might already start to dictate how your run is going to go. And now imagine if you got something that said like, for every item in your warehouse, you're getting more money. And you're like, I have a ton of money, or I have a ton of items, so I can get a ton of money. Might be interesting. All right, so wait, what was the latest question though? Oh yeah, so does this actually work to give you interesting options? After simulating this for a bit, does it work to give you interesting choices? So let's say we just randomly chose one of these, like this one. No, some of these are not interesting on their own. We can't like just give you one stat. Because you might have, yeah, because you don't have any way of getting the other stat that you want. Yeah. And this, yeah. Are any stats dependent enough on other stats that they wouldn't be interesting on their own? If we just gave plus X% chance or X% crit value from one of the slimes, it doesn't do anything without the crit chance. Should we grant it conditionally on you having a non-zero chance? Should we grant it with the chance? Should it just not show up? Yeah. Something like that. All right, so maybe what we try to figure out is like, what are the broken strategies we're trying to get you toward here? Like if you put in fewer adventurers per party, it might not impact you that much. I kind of like those sorts of things. And I like these being unique. I know that's what Codex was saying too, is I'd steer toward them being unique. I think unique choices are more interesting. So it's kind of like what relics were, except for they just be coded as perks. And of them, then which ones are really all that unique? So let's see. If we just looked at unique modifiers, although should they be? I'm trying to think. Your positive ones, if you got something like, I don't know, you get double the loot from some battles. It's like loot magnet is always active. There are ways you make that work. Well, that's not unique, I suppose. Maybe, I don't know. I don't even have any ideas. Yeah, like this. You always get seeds for your most valuable crop. Like that's a farming perk that you otherwise couldn't get. It's going to make you want to invest in the farm. but the only way you can invest in it is by getting random farm perks. So the trade-offs, that was one way. Didn't I talk about some other thing? Oh, the breaking the game sorts of things. That I think for all this stuff, we're going to need some way to like reroll perks. I just can't imagine. I can't imagine this working otherwise. Perk choices. Otherwise, you can only steer so much. I'm not even certain. Like, it could actually be something you get from these trade-offs. It could be that one of the positive effects is you can re-roll perk choices. Actually, chaos mode should probably start with you being able to re-roll perk choices. Should write that down. Should probably be built into chaos specialization. Wait, no. What am I talking about? It doesn't make any sense. They're chosen randomly. Oh, man. All right, so unique ones could be something like plus X, or I guess it's plus one or minus one adventurer per battle, plus one or minus one battle window concurrently. These wouldn't be unique. I just took them all from the perks anyway. That could be unique. Yeah, this could be. I don't know about this. Grant this many perks. Plus X battle perks. Yeah. Plus one or minus one enemy. Yeah, I guess we do that. Enemy health, power, or quantity allocation. Yeah. Gonna try and get my son a Skele-game hoodie in October for his birthday. Oh, how nice. Yeah. By the way, I pointed this out in the merch command, which I did not link recently, but a couple things. One, I tried to set the revenue as low as possible on those shirts and hoodies. Oh, I don't know how that happened. Yeah, there. So for most of the shirts, I'm making no money whatsoever. So the point in my mind was let people get merch for as cheap as possible and not necessarily use it as an income generating machine. Now, maybe if the game became like super successful, I might, double or triple the merch price and be like, well, now I might as well. But for now, yeah, they're set as low as possible. And the second thing is, if you do click one of these links, it's at least something I earn money through. But the one I shared in chat shouldn't be. That would be insane for the first battle when you only get one guy. I think this stuff probably wouldn't show up until it's been like probably 5 or 10 minutes into the game. So that probably wouldn't be too much of a problem. I think we'll have to play around with that and figure out what the best timing is. Plus X gold for those items steers toward a certain building type. Yeah, I guess I don't have that. So plus X% value for category of loot. We have to be careful with plus X because that would make it so that you could just get tons of money from the low level areas, which maybe is interesting. I don't know. I think we need to be careful about any strategy though that lets you just fight in the forest and like max out your town without ever fighting anywhere else. Because then you'd only need like 3 adventurers. Yeah. So like 90. Sherman only gets like $12, I think, at the rest. Wow. Yeah, I mean, even getting $12 is like, I guess it is relative to how much the customer's paying. But I was gonna say, I I probably make some money off that stuff. Hey, Fern, thanks for the raid. Welcome in. Anyway, to finish my thought there, I have never tried to make money off of that stuff though. But yeah, I know merch can be pretty big for a lot of major brands or influencers. Hey, hard coded. How'd the stream go today, Fern? Shout out Freshwater Fern. Yeah, do check out Fern. She's been working on her game forever. One eternity. But maybe here was a perk that spawns a treasure chest for free every X minutes. Yeah. Yeah, like that sort of thing could, I think, be really interesting. Get a free treasure chest every so often. 2 million years. Well, that's pretty good though about the $6 thing, at least. Post-combat health regeneration. I think we sort of have that in a specialization. We could probably make it go faster. Make regeneration faster. Gonna probably have lunch. All right, wow, late lunch. Yeah, for those who are new here, I'll show you the game I'm working on. I've been working on this for about 1.5 years now, and with some other people too. I've got the credits come in. The game in general is very easy to understand, I feel, and it's pretty casual and approachable, which is you send adventurers in the battle, they fight automatically, and they'll earn items that you can then sell in your town. You grow up your town, you build up your town, you find better stuff, you keep building on it. It's an incremental game. So yeah, when I win this, I'll get some potions. I can put them in my shop. My little Skele-man will also put it in the shop. Customers will come and buy this stuff. And this is the base game mode. And you eventually build it up. You get a farm, you can grow crops, you can level up your adventures that way. But what we've been working on for the last month or so has been challenge mode, where you start with a specialization, you pick a difficulty. So we might pick like adventuring and medium mode. So now perks cost more, buildings cost more, adventures cost more. But we start with, I think, 3 adventures. Yeah, 3 adventures, and they're all level 4 to begin with. So now, right off the bat, we can probably go fight like here maybe. And maybe we're able to win this fight. I'm not actually sure. And then any choices that you're offered, so like I might choose to buy a perk, I'm now presented with a roguelike set of choices here, so I might pick that one. They probably will win this. Yeah, they should. Yeah, so like this changes the start of the game for me. I just got some items that are worth more than my piddly 3 gold items I would have gotten normally. So I might put this in my shop over here, and put this over here, and put this over here, and slowly get some more money. And that's why there was a downside here of things cost more. Yeah. So if anyone does want to check this out, the game is in demo form right now. You can play not challenge mode, but you can play the base game mode. And we're trying to design how we can make challenge mode better. And yeah, I think we're gonna have trade-offs. So right now, every time you click to buy a perk, whatever kind of perk you buy or whatever kind of thing you buy, it's always positive. This is positive, this is positive, this is positive. I think having trade-offs for these would be interesting. So not specifically these perks that you see here. Oh, also that's something that's gonna have to change. Drat. Can't be white. it's gotta be tinted, as you can see which one is highlighted. All right, let me write that down. Oh, I don't think we've done enough coding today. Oh, I kind of have. I've gotten this new UI. I don't know. This isn't enough contrast between the background and the highlighted level. Does that show up over here too? No, over here there's a different colored background. You know what else I could do? I could just change the panel to look like almost like a tooltip, like this. I'm gonna write that down to try that. Try changing the paper sub theme to the tooltip graphic, since we know those colors work. Hello, Booty. Welcome in. Negative increased sludge required for levels. Flip side sounds too powerful to have as a positive. Yeah, we could do that. Where is my... Here it is. Unique modifiers. Make... I guess I'll just say category of perks. Perks cost more per level. maybe just add X gold to the cost one time and it'll affect all future levels. Could look at specializations and pull those changes in. So those were coded as constraints. I guess we could kind of do something like that. They're not really different from just having perks, are they? I guess not. Especially if there are levels of these. Yeah, I'll think about that. Hey, Cabino. How goes it? Welcome in, welcome in. Hey, programmer Jeff. You know, I've seen this happen a lot where people become raid magnets. Freshwater Fern just raided, now Cabino. I do appreciate it. I hope your stream was good. We've been working on challenge mode in Skele-cellar, and I just did a quick intro, so I will just shorten it to this. This is the roguelike version of Skele-cellar, and what we're trying to come up with is what's going to make the runs fun enough to keep doing. So right now we have enough different like starting points for the game. So you can start with the treasure room or you can start with the enchanter. But then why would you play like 5 different enchanter runs? So yeah, now I have a fully upgraded enchanter. I can cast whatever spells I want. There's a chance to cast 2 spells at once. I can put on auto casting. So we just cast all 3 spells for only the mana of 2 of them. Our mana is regenerating super fast. We have a lot of it. So like this starts to influence your run that you do. But why would you play this mode a second time? And that's where we're coming up with these trade-offs. I think this all needs to be combined with a higher difficulty level probably, so that when you do break the game, like that's what it takes to be able to win the run. Probably need to increase the difficulty even further so that breaking the game is practically required in order to beat the final difficulty. Maybe we make an impossible difficulty. Could see having some that only happen for specific specs. Yeah, that could happen too. I don't think that would be too complicated to do. Customers are more or less attracted to a shop type. For that, I'd probably just remove customers or remove how much loot you get from that. Yeah, I'd probably have it be this one. Because having customers not go and buy armor items might feel bad. But if you just didn't get the armor items in the first place, it would feel bad for a different reason, but it'd be at least a more explainable reason, I think, as opposed to like, why aren't they going for these items? Okay. So what else do we have to figure out here? I think it's the simulation stuff, like will this result in good choices? Physically never want to walk in there. Yeah, I think it'd be one of those like, oh, I forgot that was even a perk. So now I'm frustrated that they're not walking over there. Or not a perk, but a negative, a trade-off. As opposed to the whole like, oh, I'm not going to get as many armors. That you might be like, oh yeah, that's why that's happening. And not just there's some force field stopping them from going over there. So again, let's just pick some of these, like this one. Get a free treasure chest. Maybe every so often is every minute. Also, these could change based on when you're offered them. Like if you're offered this early on and you have 20 minutes left in the game, that means you could get 20 free treasure chests. But if you're offered this toward the end, maybe it should be like every 15 seconds. So yeah, you could get free treasure chests still, but they're probably not going to be valuable to you at that point. Anyway, let's say that's a positive. So this is choice 1 is going to be positive, get a treasure chest, negative, -1 adventurer per battle, something like that. Choice 2, positive could be, I'm very torn on the location stuff. Because getting more loot from a location is not necessarily great. Also, I wonder if it's interesting to have some of these be time-based. Like, the positive is the garbage time is at maximum hunger for the next 30 seconds. So you can feed it a ton of items. I don't think that's interesting because this is stopping you from getting other perks during that time. And I wonder if those should be like custom spells you get. Maybe they're one-time use. Yeah, interesting. I'm not sure. I don't see this being all that fun. I think X% value from loot at the volcano or something that could be interesting. About it vomiting. I don't want to do that. I'm so lost. Lost on how you can become a playtester? Because it's just join the Skele Discord and then DM me saying, hey, I want to be a playtester. And that's it. Then I'll send you a key. And then keep these things in mind. Like, please don't talk about us outside of that Discord. Don't share with other people. That's usually pretty obvious. What else? Yeah, I don't know. We'd have to pick one of these things. All right, so let's do that. Like plus X%, plus 50% loot from the volcano. And the negative here would be... I mean, I guess the trade-off would have to be for that location, right? It basically would be like power up the volcano. So the trade-off would be a built-in combination of choices. Like plus 40% enemy health and power at the volcano. I'm not even sure that's interesting. Yeah, I don't think this is that interesting. It basically turns it into the next location if you do that. All right, well, anyway. Yeah, that's probably not cool, but what's the last thing we can do here? Yeah, you always get seeds for your most valuable crop. And the minus would be town perks cost 5 gold more from now on. Or maybe 10 gold more from now on. How much does that impact you? I always have a hard time thinking about this. Sequences of numbers that keep adding some amount. So normally, let's say it'd be 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. That'd be 100. Otherwise, it'd be 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. It'd be 150. So yeah, just adding 10 for each one, obviously. So I said I have a hard time thinking about this and then proved it by having a hard time thinking about it. So every single perk you get for the rest of the game is going to cost more. And if you normally get 50 perks and you were at like 25 when you did this, it's basically just spend an extra 250. So I don't know what this number should be. Maybe 15. Yeah, but anyway, so now let's say you're presented with these three. And you know what? Here's how I should have done this. What I should have done is I should have started a new run of something. So let's pick industry and medium mode. And I should play it for 5 minutes. And then after 5 minutes, I should act like I was just given that perk choice. So let's try that out. It's the same as Adam Learns. I know there's a specific Skele one, and it is the second one in this link. Oh wait, the doc had an invalid link. Hang on, is that the same as that one? It is. Can someone who's not in the Skele Discord, I guess maybe Galaxy Inferno too, can you click this and just tell me, does it work? Does it not work? You don't even need to join. I'm curious if it says like that link is expired. Because for me, it opens Discord. Works for you. Okay, cool. Yeah. It works. Hey, Southpaw. Okay, yeah. So Galaxy Inferno, that link should work. There might be another one in the document that doesn't work. Let me see. Oh, that one works too. Huh. Oh, you know what? It might have been this link. This link wouldn't work because you're not part of the... Okay, I'm gonna just remove that. And I'll just bold this or something. Oh, I'll bold it. Yeah, I think it's better. Yeah, you can't link to specific channels. And what's weird is even if you want the invite link to be public, you can't have that include there. So same thing here. I guess I should remove these. Okay, my bad. Good luck works for me now too. It was probably one of those. Those wouldn't have worked. Tricked into clicking a link on stream. Welcome. All right. Anyway, I just wasted a bunch of time here, but it's kind of the same effect, I guess. So let's do this and this and this. I'm gonna turn on the sound. Oh my god, so many skeletons running around. Let's get another adventurer. These both suck. They're all running around. Huh, okay. Well, either way, welcome. Welcome to the Discord. You can see which links are active or not. Well, I never changed the activeness, but I think what might have happened, and I don't know this for sure, but maybe Galaxy Inferno had gone to the link to a specific channel, which definitely would not have worked. Oh, what do I want here? Let's go with that. That way they... Wait, what? Why are they... Do I start with garbage time? Oh, I do. Oh, that's cool. All right, so let's send them all to a new location. Also, wait a sec. Is this the mode where things sell for less? Because it looks like things are only selling for 2. No, they only sold at the garbage line for 2. Okay. So now send them all over to here. So in 1 minute and 20 seconds, we're going to act like we just got a new perk choice. And then it's the trade-off one. Yeah, we really need customers. I can't even beat this area. Oh, whoops. I didn't send everybody in. I was like, that's not possible. Item despawn time. That one I'm torn on because I feel like lowering it probably won't affect many people. But yeah, we could put that there. All right, so 40 more seconds. I didn't really get very far in this. I think I was all tabbed out for part of it too. Nice. All right, so I'm gonna run over here only to just run back because I don't have a warehouse or anything. They're just gonna dump it off in this again. Yeah, it's still money. So we could build another building now. Let's get the farm. Nice. Let's put this over here, I guess. We desperately need customers. We're never going to get them. Customer speed, that's pretty good. Let's take that. And crop variety, that's pretty good too. No, what? I needed that yellow potion. No. Okay, okay. So now act like we got this set of choices. So get a free treasure chest every minute, but -1 adventurer per battle. We don't have the treasure chest thing, but I might actually opt for that. If... Yeah, I might have opted for that, because that sounds pretty good and it's early on. This one is stupid. I think this choice needs to be remade. And choice 3 is you always get seeds for the most valuable crop, which right now won't impact me, but this one would. So I'd probably pick this one just based on those 2 choices. But how does this one... How should this change, I guess? Just pick pretty much anything else. Shops can sell any type of item. Every time you cast a spell, you duplicate X items in your warehouse. This requires 2 buildings. Actually, I think that's kind of interesting. And then what would be the negative for this? Yeah, something like that. This would be almost not a negative at all. You can pretty much just skip the volcano. So I don't think this is very interesting. We'd say plus 40% enemy health and power. We could just do like plus 15% across the board. That would be interesting. Yeah, warehouse could sell items. I think that could be cool too. So the question is, because I think what's nice is playtesters can probably easily identify when you can add a positive or negative to this list. And the bigger the list, probably the more interesting it gets. So is this set of choices interesting enough on its own? Seems the best only because the negative is so low impact. It's basically saying every battle takes 15% longer and also instills more of a regeneration time, which is slowing your income down. So it might not be that straightforward. But also, I don't have the enchanter or the warehouse right now. And even once I do, I don't have any upgrades for the enchanter. So this requires 2 buildings, but could be pretty nice. This one requires a building I don't have. And the downside is probably pretty steep. But the free treasure chest would offset it a little bit. And then this one doesn't help me right now. It also kind of hurts me right now. So anyway, I think the choices are interesting. Yeah. So we need to play this scenario out a couple times throughout the run and see which ones we'd pick and how we'd benefit from them and whether it really would change our run and whether that on its own would make it unique and interesting. But yeah, I do like this idea. Because every so often you're going to get one of these choices and it's just going to be something like, oh yeah, what am I going to do about this? So I think if there's a way to play around it. There should always be. I can't imagine any of these being like so problematic. So this, I think we should not do it at a location. Yeah. We can't do this for a specific location because it just doesn't really have an impact. You would probably just avoid that location. And if we buffed that location at the same time that we, or like buffed the loot, the same time that we buffed the enemies, it would just feel like whatever location is one farther ahead. If all enemies are stronger, what's the plan to counter it? I mean, that's something you'd have to come up with. But the ways that I could see you being able to do that is like, oh, I got an awesome farm perk. I'm only planting pumpkins. So now instead of getting 2 food per crop, you're getting 10 food per crop. So my yield, instead of being 8, would be 40. And that's going to let me get more powerful to take on stronger enemies. But also, that plus 15% to enemy power is only once, whereas the like possibly multiply your farm crops by 5 would be for the entire game. And you could probably scale better than the enemies could scale, and you can always choose where you're fighting anyway. But the other thing that I think is kind of interesting here is you don't necessarily need a way to counter it. Or if you do, you might not get it. Like, I think of Slay the Spire, their curse cards, there are generally like ways to remove them. There are ways to like be able to cast them. There are relics to prevent getting them, or that like power you up when you have them. But you might not be offered any of those things. So you just get a curse card and you're like, well, I guess I just have a curse card. And you would hopefully know that going into it. So I think the game can give you ways of powering up, but even if it didn't, I think as long as you understand that like, this is just a downside. Like you will have one less worker. I guess there always is a way to mitigate it. Like if you had fewer workers, you could just do more as a player, or you could go compensate by getting more workers, or you could try to get less loot, but more valuable loot. So yeah, I guess there are always things you can do for it. I gotta take a break. I have been streaming for too long. So let me take a break. I'll come back and we'll try to like flesh out this list a little bit. I probably can't stay for too terribly long. But yeah, is it jump time? Is it jump time? It's jump time. Okay, cool. Yeah, feel free to join on Twitch chat. Just type join and then J and a number will make you jump. I'll be back in a bit. close the game. GG. Hey, Helpless Hero. It's going pretty well. I think, you know, one of the things I've noticed over the years, I've done game design streams before, and I think our time from the problem to at least like a first solution, maybe not a first solution, our first good solution is getting lower and lower. So I know I spent hours on this today, but I don't think this is an easy problem. And I think there are a lot of things that sound like they might be solutions. And I think there is a science to this to some extent. And I don't know that we've done the best possible solution, but I think it's at least something probably worth prototyping and figuring out. And that we should probably have some concept of these mega perks. Although I wonder if they could be things that, still don't know how this is going to work. I think we need perk rerolling. I think there are like 3 new action items we need to do from this, and it's going to take longer than the entire week to do them, and then fix difficulty levels and stuff. But let's say we go to buy perks. Actually, I wonder if buy perks should be here now. Yeah. Becoming more effective because I'm in chat more. That's right. All right, so none of these really have a way to push these to the maximum. Like you could get flimsy fish so that they're down to 1 HP, but I don't think that really matters. So these don't really have an opportunity for like super perking. But let's look at some other ones here. This one could go another 2 levels higher. We can allow this to get to 100%. Increased appetite could also have another couple levels. And maybe the final levels are even bigger bumps. So instead of plus 50% per level, it's like plus 75% or plus 100%. And Swift Shoes could also have something that bumps it up by quite a lot. Maybe it allows you to go 150% or something. Skeletons are just zipping around. Yeah, same thing with something like this. This could be, you know, 3 keys or 4 keys. I just want to see how many of them fit into that. This can't really, none of those can. This also can't really. This one could. What else do we have? I've seen all these. Yeah, loot magnet could only go up to 100%. I mean, beyond that, it's not going to do anything. Although we could allow for item tripling. Maybe once you've maxed these, the new perks start showing up. I don't know why they wouldn't just be a continuation of the existing perk. I guess because they start having different effect. Yeah, I kind of want like perk prerequisites. Prerequisites. Let's see. I like the idea of breaking the game. Yeah, these could be separate choices. Well, I don't think they need to be. They, well, yeah, actually they could be. Could also have perk prerequisites. Don't show loot magnet has a 25% chance to triple items until you've maxed out loot magnet. Yeah, this would be better from a text perspective. We wouldn't overload any single perk by doing this. Okay, so I think what we're essentially getting to is we need to add this trade-off system. The system should be pretty simple, but then the content is going to take forever. We need to add these extra perks. That's, again, more content. And then the way of re-rolling perks, again, the system should be pretty easy. Although I don't know how we're going to let you re-roll perks. We should probably figure that out. Because I do like the idea of re-rolling. I wonder if I should just code it now and then worry about how we let you do it later. But let's think about it. All right, how should we let you re-roll perks? Maybe every X choices you can re-roll. Or like you bank 1 re-roll. I kind of like this. This is just the first idea I had. It could be that you pay for them. Have to be careful here, since the cost would need to rise. Yeah, that's not bad either. Each time you finish a level, you choose again for every 20 levels. The finishing a level bit is a little bit tough because you start with the ability to finish a level very easily. And then probably once you have like 2 adventurers, you could probably beat the volcano. So it's pretty easy for you to get like probably 3 rerolls within your first like 5 minutes. But I think you'd also want more than 3. I think you'd probably want like, if you can roll 50 perks, you probably want to re-roll 10 of them. I'm just randomly guessing, so I'm not totally sure. But a reroll option is a perk that you randomly get. Yeah, so that is possible, but I think it's something that is like one of the most valuable things. So we should probably just give it to everybody. Killing an elite encourages killing them. Yeah, elites are in kind of a weird spot right now, and I'm not sure how we can ever put them in a better spot. I think there'd have to be like a boss location where you just keep fighting harder bosses, or that they need to do something better than they're doing now. And even then, I'm very torn on this, because there are some adventurer heavy builds. But I do like both of these so far. But yeah, it could be beating a boss. Could grant like X of them. Or just the ability to re-roll. Oh, perks are only in challenge mode. Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying only for the adventure-specific challenge is when you'd get it from beating bosses. Yeah. I think I'd want to keep it easy and have it be the same across any specialization. So I'm leaning toward one of these. And that way it's easier for the player to understand too. So paying for them probably isn't too bad, but then I feel like you can fish quite a lot. Fish for the right perk early on. Well, I guess it'll cost you, and there are probably lots of good perks early on. I'm really leaning toward this. I like this idea quite a lot. It lets you reroll without unlocking anything. It doesn't let you reroll your very first few choices, which means you can't just keep restarting without playing for a bit. What else? Yeah, I don't know. If stronger perks have prerequisites, fishing early is really risky. Do you mind clarifying what you mean by that? Yeah, I think I want to go with this. I don't know what X is. That's the next question to ask. What is X? Previous starred option. Maybe 5? Also, we got to say you cannot reroll trade-offs. You get a negative for so many retreats during a playthrough. I think most people probably aren't fleeing too much in challenge mode, because generally you'll go try to tackle a new area, and if you can beat it, then you will probably be able to beat it every single time thereafter. And if you can't beat it, sure, you might flee once, but if you knew there was a penalty for fleeing, you'd probably just be a little bit more cautious, and I don't think it would be very fun. I've thought about penalties for battling a lot, and there actually is a specialization where I think we have this built in. Where is it? Oh, it's one of these. Yeah, adventurers regenerate their health at 50% of the normal rate. That's a penalty for losing a battle. All right, so where did I write this down? Yeah, so maybe 5. So the way runs are working now, you get about 50 perks. So you would get 10 rerolls. You'd probably bank these toward the end of your run where the perks start to matter a little bit more. There's no guarantee you even get good perks when you reroll. And I guess you'd be able to reroll many times. I like this idea. Let's start with this. I think this is fun. Yeah. Okay, so add reroll tokens. You get 1 every 5 perk choices. You cannot reroll trade-offs. The trade-off options. All right, so what haven't we settled on here? We should add trade-off options to the game. Or I guess just add. Without this, there's nothing to react to in the game that will make the runs different. Rationale gives you something to react to, which will make runs different. Delete this. There are currently no negative effects in the game, except from specialization difficulty levels. Every so often could be some number of perk choices. Get them every like 10 perk choices. They are comprised of 1 positive and 1 negative effect. Typically, these effects are unique. All right, I guess composed of. They have. Let's see, the uniqueness should make these choices more interesting. And what else? I don't know what else. Any thoughts on more variance in each area in terms of battles? As you just mentioned, once you beat an area, it's pretty safe to assume you'll always beat it. If there's a higher level of variance, maybe once in a while you lose a battle. Or does that counter your intent? This is really tough because I think the question is like, what would having a player lose some battles in a timed mode do to players? And it would probably make them only fight in a location that they know they'll win. So they fight in lower level areas. It may also make them conclude they can't take on a location when they just got unlucky once. Given that battles take like 20 seconds and that you only have somewhere around 40 minutes, I think having you waste 20 seconds on a battle you lost when it wasn't really your fault is kind of strange. There is, by the way, some variance. Right now we vary attack speeds of enemies from 2.4 attacks to 2.6 attacks. Or no, sorry, other way around. Anyway, there's some like tiny amount of variance. It's whatever this is, 0.2 divided by like 2.5. So yeah, there's like an 8% difference in attack speed for enemies. So it is possible that you do lose a battle some of the time, but otherwise it's just the randomness that you already know that's exposed to your player. Like your rogue has a 5% chance to dodge. Like yes, 5% means you could dodge literally every single attack, but you probably won't. So yeah, what does it make you do? I don't think it's fun things for the game. Let me stop that. I didn't realize it's still running. It's gonna be playing the same title screen track. Say a system is in place that some set of higher tier perks are only available after defeating a location. If you burn the rerolls before that prereq is met, you have a low chance to roll the correct options late game. Good way to penalize players for being greedy early on. I think that's the typical risk reward though. Like by quote being greedy early on, you're probably picking better perks that allow you to get a little bit further in the game. Now, something kind of interesting about this is there will be trade-off options late into the game if we do things. Where is it? Yeah, if we do things this way. And that I don't think I like. So I'm not sure this is the best way of doing things. I also kind of don't like the idea of you having to pay for these. And I wonder if we should consider this to be time-based. But I don't really care, I guess. No, you know what we should do? You get them every X perk choices. where X increases such that you're probably getting like 4 per run over the course of the first 75% of the game. So maybe X is like 6 and then 14 and then 28 and then 45. No, that can't be it. Well, anyway, something like this. I just wrote out some numbers here. Maybe plus 8 and then like plus 10 and then plus 12 and then plus 14 will put you at 50. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, not really fully balanced. 46, 40, I don't know. All right, whatever. I'm making up numbers. There, great. And then, yeah, 58. Sure. All right, what else? What else? There could be something saying town perks are cheaper from here on out. That'd be kind of interesting, too. Where did I write the thing about them being more expensive? Oh, here it is. Plus X cost to category perks. Yeah. Probably battle or town perks. I do like these ideas. I really like these ideas. Love how much replayability is going to this. I mean, I hope this works out. I've invested a lot of very valuable time into this, and we could have just prepped toward launching, and then, yeah, I don't know. I think we're gonna have to prune down how much we do for this. But yeah, maybe we can start coding some of this tomorrow, which is why for the rest of today, which is not gonna be very long, I want to just spend concretizing this so that we're pretty certain with this plan, and then try to poke holes at this a little bit more. Specialization should still allow for upgrading beyond what you would normally get. Yeah. This pretty much goes here. Like the idea of breaking the game through even more perks or just depth of perks. Guard Slime could just stop losing hunger at some point, or always crit or vacuum up every item from the warehouse. This would add depth even to the specializations, although we could make these rarer in those specs to prevent obvious builds that you keep re-rolling for. Yeah, I don't think perk rarity would be that hard to do. Yeah. A lot of this, by the way, that I keep talking about here is balance. So let's say you have plus X% income. You inherently have a balance knob that you can tweak as granularly as you want to. If 15% is too much and 5% is too low, then you've got an infinite number of numbers in between there. And if you know what the bounds are, then you can pretty easily try like 12 and then 8 and whatever else. And you'll eventually figure out what's good. But that's in isolation. Balancing this amongst every other option you have in the game and the combinations of options, those will be difficult. But the very essence of having a number you can change is important. So it's kind of the same even for like perk rarity. Right now, every perk has identical rarity. In the future, if we decide to change that, yeah, I haven't manifested a number for this to be possible. We just have an array of like A, B, C, and D, and we just randomly pick one. Well, we could have it be A and like 5% chance, B and a 50% chance, and so on and so forth that we manifest these with. So possible, its balance is going to be difficult. X shop is now farm plots or fishing pond. No idea how you'd count this as a positive or negative effect. That I think is very hard to do because we only allow for one of each kind of building right now in the code. Like some of these things already have numbers associated with them. So like seeds have a cost. So changing that cost is easy. But the farm is just like the farm. And we could add another, but then we need to change more code for that. I don't even think it'd be super tough to change it for some of this stuff. but I want to shy away from that at first, at least. All right, so I think specialization should still allow for upgrading beyond what you normally get. Entirely separate choices. We got perk prerequisites. Add reroll tokens. Still don't know what this is going to do yet, but bosses are in a weird place right now in challenge mode. Probably need to increase difficulty even further so that breaking the game is practically required. Yeah. So this is, I think, also important. And I think we need to increase it even sooner than an impossible mode. So let me think about this, because I don't know. I don't know how many difficulty levels we should have. I still think easy should always be the same. It should be get like 5,000 gold, 45-minute time limit, you got no constraints, and every single specialization has the same easy mode. I think that makes sense. Although for whatever reason, farming has a lower easy mode than the other ones. Yes, I don't know why that's the case. Okay, that's just a mistake. Huh, I didn't even notice that. Okay, let me write that down too somewhere. Farming spec has a 5,000 gold target for its easy mode. No other specs have that. Unlock gold to accrue interest. I think interest in games like this is not super fun. Maybe, like, I'm trying to think, what if it was like a bond that you're buying, so you spend 50 gold to get 150 gold in 10 minutes or something, or 5 minutes, and then you just can't buy these when it's toward the end of the game. Is it interesting though? I feel like this is basically what perks are doing for you, and you just need to figure it out, and it's using systems that already exist. Anyway, where did I leave off? I had some other thing here. Oh yeah, the difficulty. Yeah. So, all right, easy is fine. That's set in stone in my mind. I don't think there's any reason to change that. But then it starts getting more controversial. So medium, if I were to just paint a very broad picture of this, turn this off because that's annoying me. So easy should be no constraints, no real challenge. Pretty much everyone who has played challenge mode will beat this. Yeah. Then medium would be like a new player should probably beat this like greater than 50% of the time. So it's not very tough. Then I think we should drastically cut this down. So like this may take 3 to 5 attempts, maybe. And then very hard would be like this may take 5 to 10 attempts. And then we make like an impossible mode that says this may take greater than 10 attempts. And herein lies an issue already, which is, are these attempts different enough? So let me write this down over here, because I do like this idea. And then we'll delete this and that. Okay. So are these attempts different enough? You play on impossible mode, and it's got whatever these constraints are here. Enemies do a ton of damage. Seeds cost maybe 5 gold or something. You can't build the fishing pond. So now you are still hoping for like the run. And I guess it comes down to perk selection and what trade-offs you end up getting. I'm just still concerned that if any of the runs are, or any of the options are too synergistic, that it's easy enough to get what these trade-offs are that you'll need to get. I'm not really sure what we can do about that. Yeah, I don't know. Wait, what is this? That's not where that was supposed to go. Okay, so I think the main problem is still that still the strategy of all of this. You're probably aiming for these super synergies. And once you get them, it may not be fun. I have the knee jerk, we need to playtest this reaction. Essentially shut down certain builds. Yeah. There's something that this kind of reminds me of. Hearthstone, I don't know if they still do, but they used to have single player like challenges. I think it was called adventures or something. And you'd get to certain bosses and there'd be some constraint like all cards cost 5 mana or something. I'm just making something up. I don't know if that was actually a thing. So now you'd have to build a deck in a certain way, but a lot of people just didn't like the deck building aspect or couldn't figure out how they were supposed to make this strategy work. So they went online and they just found a deck that they're like, oh, hey, this has an 80% win rate. Here are the decisions you make, and here's what you do. There's no stopping people from going online and figuring out what the best strategy is or what worked for other people. But if you are trying not to do that, would you be able to figure out from these things, is the thing it's steering you towards super obvious? Do we need other constraints here that prevent you from just ignoring all these downsides anyway? I think some of this is still just a balancing game. All right, yeah. I think that's my answer. This right here. It's my knee-jerk answer for a reason. You can only see so far ahead. If this ends up happening and people spent like 15 hours playing the game, then I guess challenge mode worked, right? But if this ends up happening and people are like, oh, I'm bored after 2 runs, then there's a problem. Yeah. Plus, at some point, we need to move on. Even coding these new conclusions will take greater than 1 week. And I still have a bunch of bugs to fix. So I guess we code these conclusions. Okay. Let's make a bookmark. So that'll be the next thing that we do. I have these things written down. I've got to write something about that. And then what did I have for this? Run variety, more perks, super perks, events. For events, the question is, how do we envision changing up our run? We could change item prices, change enemy difficulty, loot drops. What does it actually mean for you as a player? All 3 of those would have you just change locations, right? Oh, there's the vomiting of items thing. I think these are like very minor things to react to. They're maybe not as suitable for the game. I like the idea of getting rid of consumables. We don't have them in the game right now, but if we did, I think it would add enough cognitive overload where it wouldn't be as fun. But that's the one thing I could still see being kind of interesting. Like imagine a consumable item that said 10 customers will enter your town and buy everything they see for 25 seconds or something like that. And you're choosing when you want to activate this. You might activate this early on when you don't have a lot of items, but you really, really need the money. Or you might activate this later when you've got so many items that all you need are customers to buy things. So that 25 seconds is just like pure profit for you. Or you might get this when your customer speed that you have is like 0% bonus speed and they're just moving really slowly. So sure, they're buying everything, but you really couldn't make use of it. So I like some of those ideas. Yeah, I think another thing that's kind of interesting is if you have pretty simple rules and they stack on top of each other in an interesting way. And I think some of the special perks will do that sort of thing. So, oh, let's see. The perks to make the customer super fast. Yeah. Yeah, well, then it would just be to try to beat the game mode and not to get to the point where you beat the game mode, I guess. So it all depends on like how much of the consumables matter. Your goal is to aim for players to take 5 to 10 attempts, let's say. That's a lot of time per run. Will the player feel they've learned how to correct? They just feel like a wall. Is it fun for them to lose 3 times, 5 times, 10 times? Might be if there's something that feels like they're making meaningful progress on. I'm not sure. And this was kind of just a gut feeling for this anyway, of like how long should it take. So medium, I think is reasonable. Greater than 50% could be any number greater than 50%, but just not 100% of the time, maybe. Because I kind of feel this way. I've been playing Slay the Spire for a while, and beating Ascension 19 to beating Ascension 20 for me, it probably took me like 50 runs or something. And I got pretty dejected because at one point I was like, I must be making the wrong decisions. But the game isn't telling me where they are, and it's not going to at that point. And I can't necessarily identify them. And it wasn't very fun to keep restarting runs. So I don't know how much of a problem there'd be here. I just don't want people immediately jumping to impossible and beating it. I want there to be some amount of knowledge that needs to go into it or testing out different strategies. But yeah, maybe some like super player out there is going to just nope, beat this, beat this, beat this, and then beat this after like 2 attempts. But I agree with you. Yeah, is losing fun? Are you learning anything? Are you earning anything to make the next run easier? Okay, so different difficulties we have written down. Run variety. I've got the ideas for. Hang on one second. Let me turn my phone on now. I should probably, if I'm going to keep streaming, just make sure that this is still on. Okay. I don't like the idea of meta progression for this. Maybe within a specialization. Even then, I don't know. Like one way, I guess the easiest way I could do meta progression is there could be an experience bar for each specialization, and each level gives you +1 random perk at the beginning of the run. And maybe you could opt to turn this feature off or something. So if you wanted to be the pure difficulty, it would have been. So yeah, if you do a run like 400 times, that you gain 6 levels in that amount of time. I don't know. I don't know why you do it 400 times. I'm making up numbers here. But then you'd start with 6 perks every run. And yeah, at some point, if we gave you like 50 perks, you wouldn't be able to lose. So it could be interesting. I could see that being okay. I don't mind that. That's like a difficulty lessening thing. And that's also a pretty simple way of exposing that. And I should probably write that down somewhere. I want to just file some of these things. So do I have some like meta? I don't. I should probably write roguelite somewhere. No. All right, well, let's write this down. So meta progression, keyword roguelite, persistent progression. I generally don't like the idea of reducing difficulty via some persistent perk tree, since I feel like it cheapens the difficulty of the game. However, if we want this, I think the simplest idea that I would be okay with is an experience bar for each specialization, where each level unlocks +1 random perk at the beginning of the run. Yeah. All right, wait, there's more though. Hang on, I still have something on my clipboard that I haven't touched, right? Yeah, events. Did I ever talk about this in design somewhere? Possibly in ideas? Yeah, occasional events. These could change your decisions. I don't like this. Change item prices. I think my problems with events are change item prices, blah, blah, blah. What does it actually mean for the player? Don't know how they actually change your decision making in a meaningful way. An event might change item prices, change enemy difficulty, loot drops, etc. What does it actually mean for you as a player? All three of those would have you just change locations, right? Or alternatively, they're changing some like micro action for a small amount of time. And I think that's one of the things that I realized playing through challenge mode so far. I kind of mentioned this a while ago that it feels kind of like an RTS. There's micro and there's macro, and you wouldn't expect that out of a game like this. And the micro is not like, I guess by sort of definition, it's not really meaningful actions. So you're moving a bunch of items around, you're kind of just frantically maneuvering things. I wonder how much we can lessen that and still have the game be interesting. Yeah, I don't think any of this is interesting. Even with this, I think it changes your priority in a relatively obvious way that isn't very fun. It's probably cognitive overload. There are already a million things happening. It would be easy to miss that an event is going on or what it's doing. It reminds me of Terraria with the goblin slash pirate invasions. At some point, you just want to focus on what you were already doing. Okay, I'm glad I at least have that written down. We got to keep plowing through this stuff. So the most important thing to improve fun and work on that. So different difficulties, run variety. I wonder if we should just turn off the other specializations for now. What do they say? I think they say something like, I didn't code this. Yeah. A constraint or several will be here, but I haven't finished them for the specialization. All right, well, we're done with this, I guess. So difficulty levels. So where I left off, I coded 5 out of 9 specializations. What I learned is that we probably shouldn't make them too hard to code. Look at this PR. The PR being the one I just closed. There. Maybe this one? Mostly added difficulty controls. Yeah. We should look at individual commits, though. Where did I just write, look at this PR? Here. Yeah, whatever. Just sure, fine. Render constraints in the objective details, release to playtesters. Okay, so this is the remaining difficulty work. So I'm gonna mark this as done. I'm gonna remove all of this from the list, and we're gonna say finish coding difficulty levels. And then let's put this under the scratch section over here. No, what am I doing? Not scratch section. Archive to do. Okay, so the new work we've got to do is this stuff. Code trade-offs. What else is part of this? Code trade-offs. More broader/deeper perks. See this section. And what's the remaining thing? Rerolls? Rerolls and harder difficulty levels. Is that everything? Yep. I think we can start with rerolls. I think rerolls are the easiest. They're the easiest to do. So for this, what we're going to do is we're going to add a recycle. Add a button like this. Button to the UI alongside a reroll token 0 thing with a tooltip explaining what it does. Make it so that pressing the button costs a token. Disable the button when you have no tokens. Pressing the button costs a token, takes a token, and re-rolls whatever perks you see. This should probably only be allowed for town perks, and it eventually shouldn't work, and it shouldn't work for trade-offs. All right, trade-offs, broader and deeper perks. This is just make a separate task for this. We need to come up with the perks and then code them. Trade-offs, need to design how we'll surface these, like how we'll generate these, track which ones we gave you, and render them in the UI so that you can see the history of what you chose. And then harder difficulty levels. Make a separate task for this. The trade-offs, actually this should happen after this. The trade-offs and deeper perks should allow for more broken builds, which should drastically change what the objectives/constraints can be. I was actually thinking each difficulty could unlock a higher tiered set of perks, so beating all the easy and medium gives more power toward the higher difficulty. It could. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen games go both ways with this. Either like give you all of the tools from the beginning and you as a player get better, or give you better tools as the game progresses. Which, I mean, always it's pretty much assumed you're going to get better as a player of pretty much any game. So give you better tools as the game progresses. This is so that you don't necessarily have to get better as a player. And I think it all just depends on the game. Yeah. Like this is how most fighting games work. Most RTS games work this way. This is generally how most RPG games work. This is how every roguelike game works. And I think depending on how it's done, like some card games. I remember Hearthstone, for example, they have, if you don't know Hearthstone, this doesn't really matter, but they had a 2 mana, 2/3 card, like minion, I guess. And then they had a 2 mana, 2/3 minion with an effect. And the idea was that you would understand that, oh, an effect is better than just a plain minion. So you'd eventually upgrade your deck by adding in this card and swapping out the old one. And that would teach you the very basic lesson of like some cards are just better than others. And that was a design stance that they took that they wanted to instill I don't know how much they're still doing that. I don't know what the new player experience of Hearthstone is nowadays. But yeah, in general, that's also tied into their monetization. So they need to give you better cards at some point, so you'd want to spend money. I like seeing the progression, which is more visible when you unlock better tools as you play. Yeah, yeah, that is true. I still kind of like the idea of just giving you more random perks, which would allow you to get more broken builds by starting from a farther along point. But I will say this, with meta progression, it's easy enough for us to design a system that can just be sort of added on top of all of this. Whether it is you get different kinds of perks, or you get special perks at the beginning, or you get to choose what those perks are. It's like it's probably going to slot into a system we already have. I'm not saying there won't be a ton of UI for it. The UI is going to be intense, but the actual like giving you a benefit is something we can already do in the game. I guess part of this, I was just playing Nine Kings, and they have this system. They have meta progression. You play a king, I guess, and you get points for that king. And then there are perks that use those points, or like experience points, I guess. They rely on leveling up. So I was playing, I think, the Storm King or something, and it had the only perk I got, because I only got to level 2, I think, was like 5% chance to auto kill something with your tower ability. And right off the bat, what I thought when I saw this was, oh man, I don't want to have to figure all this stuff out. Like, what's the best build on top of, once you're in the game, what's the best build? But I think it adds to the customization of the run. All right, I'll write down what the perks are of doing this stuff, but I'm still just not torn. Some people like the customization, the feeling of progression, especially if more powerful options are unlocked. That way a very hard run feels even more broken than a medium run when it works. What else? Yeah. Hey, Snow Goose. I'm getting so much inspiration from Hearthstone, the exact thing you said, and the hero power, but it's roguelike deck builder with strategic movements for the player character. Yeah, I think Hearthstone has done pretty well, and there's still a pretty dedicated player base after all these years, which I think is very impressive for a digital-only card game. Like, when I think of what card games are even out there, and I'm certainly not a card game fanatic, so I don't know all of them, but there's Pokemon, there's Magic, there's presumably still Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't even know if Yu-Gi-Oh! Is still around. Hearthstone, then there's like the Dominion sorts of things and whatever else. It's like, these have been around forever. Hearthstone has not been around forever, but in terms of video games, it kind of has been. It's been like 11 years, I think. Also, like challenge mode that could be random tools or something. You start off with better tools depending on RNG on which ones you think. Well, what I was thinking is this. So we have this chaos mode. See how it says start with 15 random town perks? So if I click this and I click start new run, at the very beginning of the run, it's like, hey, here's all the random stuff you got. And we go into this and we can see like, whoa, we got a lot of different things. So you need to now come up with a strategy based on what you see here. Like, what synergies do I already see? And how should I progress? So now imagine if instead of 15 of these, you had a level, and when you're at level 3, you get +3 random perks. And maybe we allow this to go up to like level 5 or something. So it's not a crazy amount of extra power. And the perks would have only cost you what? 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. They would have cost you 100 gold to buy 5 perks. Of course, you would have chosen instead of them being random. But the more important thing is then your 6th perk would have cost 35. And then the 7th would be 40, and so on and so forth. So you're saving 100 now, but then you're also saving like 25 on the perk after that. And it might be choices you never would have made, which is another thing that I think is kind of interesting. And I still think that's the core of varying these runs, And if I haven't written this rationale down, if we don't force different, or like if we don't strongly nudge you toward different choices, you may never make different choices. Yeah. And ideally, if any of this stuff looks like it's working, I guess we should add that as a to-do item. If this stuff looks like it worked, then consolidate the design and rationale from here into here. So the first from here is here, and the second from here is here. Whoops. Okay. Okay, so I guess the first thing we should do is make a new branch. We're not doing this right now, by the way. Okay, so I expect rerolls to be very, very easy to code. So I'm hoping they are, because that's my expectation. I think trade-offs are going to be a lot harder. And then I think the rest of this is mostly just content. So we're putting a lot of hope into the trade-offs for this. Yeah. At the end of this, the most important thing is to ask playtesters whether this makes runs more exciting / fun. Yeah. I'd love to get to some of these quality of life improvements that people talked about as well. Like at some point, we're going to need to add that in. Did I already have the thing about pausing? Yeah. Maybe this should just be the default. Then again, you may be waiting for money and not realize that the game is paused. Should probably just make it obvious that it's paused. Maybe show some text briefly. The bottom that fades out. Yeah, how about that? Okay. Is this even a thing? I don't know what this even is. We're getting there. You know, one of the things I said to myself a while ago was if you like set a goal and you just put in the time, you'll pretty much eventually reach that goal. This isn't always true, of course. I can't type and talk, apparently. This is what's showing that I have burned out my brain. And the context here that I think is important is it is really tough to see progress sometimes. And especially when you're going in an uncharted direction for the game and you don't know, am I going to go in this direction and have to backpedal all the way back and then go in a different direction such that that first direction you went in was kind of pointless? You will have learned from it, but none of that work might have been kept in your game. So like we set out to make challenge mode about a month ago now, and none of this stuff existed. And we didn't even have a way to say, all right, here's the mode we have here, what the problems are, and here's what we think we need to do. So now we can at least do that. We can at least look at this and say, here's what's working, here's what isn't. And I think this is the right next step to take. And if it's not, I like thinking of what are the other fallbacks or what other options can we have. And the only thing I could kind of think is if we just sort of changed the game for you a little bit, but I think the trade-offs are supposed to do that. And if they don't do that, I wonder if just adding more will work. That's maybe another question we should ask. Also, do we have enough trade-off? What do I want to say? Enough, like, do we have the user choose a trade-off enough times? That's what I want to say. In other words, is 4 per run too many, too few? Yeah, something like that. Oh, okay. Breathe. Need to focus on game design so existing things that I've coded are more fun. Then we can circle back to difficulties. Do we want meta progression? And then I have this written down too. This thing isn't that useful as a stat. I'll just put this in idle observations for right now. I wonder if we should just delete it. Which perks do we have? Battle perk ID. Health is always granted, and then we randomly grant you. Let's just copy paste these out of here. So health is always granted. So let's delete that. Then we randomly grant you 2 offensive ones, which are these, and then 1 defensive one, which are these. But I think we're gonna axe this. If we got rid of this, would this still be enough? Yeah, probably. I just don't think this is that interesting. I think we just outright remove it from the game. We have 3 other defensive stats. So we can probably just safely remove plus healing received. Fortitude and dodge are very similar. Lifesteal is interesting. Let me think about this. Oh, and then the other problem is that not all the stats work for all the adventurers. E.g. haste or haste isn't great for the spirit caller. Okay, what else is on this list? That's pretty much it. So morning is going to be this and the journal. And we're going to try to get through rerolls and at least planning the code for trade-offs. Yeah. I have a dental appointment tomorrow, which means I got to wake up earlier than normal, which means I'm usually tired for the stream. Anyway, that's it for today. I think it's been a pretty full day. It's 4:07 p.m. I gave almost like an hour extra. Wow, nice. I'll remember this in the future. I'll say the game is 1 hour better. Got more to do now than when you came in. Yeah, exactly. I think it was pretty good overall. Let's find someone to raid. Okay, we're gonna raid Spherophoria, who's probably ending soon, but whatever, that's his problem. Thank you all for being here. If you'd like to join Discord, the Skele-seller one is the second one. The Adam Learns one is the first one. Whatever you feel like joining if you want to. If not, that's totally fine. I'll be back tomorrow for just the morning. I hope you all have a good evening and take care.